So last week we covered verse number 5. So we're doing portion called as Dhyana Slokas. And those who are attending for the first time, they can request for the recordings of the previous lectures. So these are 9 introductory verses to Bhagavad Gita. It's called as Dhyana Slokas, verses for contemplation. So verse number 5, which we covered last week, just briefly I'm going to recap. It talks about Karma Yoga. So there are 3 main spiritual disciplines: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Path of action, path of devotion, and path of knowledge. So verse number 5, there is a subtle hint at Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga is nothing but path of unselfishness. Whatever you are doing in life, you must do that action in the spirit of service and sacrifice. So when you perform any action in that spirit, the focus is not on you, the focus is on how I can help others. You have to just change your thinking. You don't have to knock on every door and say, what can I do? Just that attitude has to change. So when that attitude changes from my to you or others, you identify with others, that action becomes Karma Yoga. And such unselfish action purifies your personality. It is a formula for success and peace, which we all want in life. And usually you will find 9 out of 10 cases, perhaps 10 out of 10, that as you become more active, as you become more successful, it comes at the cost of your peace. It's a common complaint. So why it happens? Because due to ignorance, whatever you are doing in life, you do it just to fulfill your own ego and egocentric desires. It's nothing but selfishness. And that selfishness agitates you. That selfishness tires you, fatigues you, right? You need a break from work. Today, half the class is missing. I'm not saying they should not be, they should not go anywhere, but especially I'm talking about in person, because you need a break. If you don't take a break, you will collapse. So only when you become unselfish in life, and when I say become unselfish, you don't have to do anything different. You don't have to announce to the world, your family, your colleagues that, hey, I am unselfish. You just feel that way. So that's the formula for peace, success, productivity. Your actions become potent, powerful. You become successful, you become dynamic. It does not tire you. So that is Karma Yoga, path of action. So path of action, Karma Yoga, purifies your personality. So verse number 5, there is a subtle hint at path of action. But when we start doing Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 chapters which talk about action only. And verse number 6, there is a subtle hint at path of devotion. So we're going to chant verse number 6.
भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः.
Translation: the battle river with Bhishma and Drona as its banks. Those who know Mahabharata, they know these characters, but you don't have to know. It's all symbolic. The battle river with Bhishma and Drona as its banks, Jayandratha as water, with the king of Gandhara as blue water lily, with Shaila as shark, Kripa as current, Karna as breakers, with Ashwathama and Vikarna as terrible crocodiles. Duryodhana as whirlpool was indeed crossed over by the Pandavas with Keshava, meaning Krishna, as the ferryman. So it's quite famous verse, oft-quoted verse. So what you understand as a seeker, that without devotion, you cannot progress in the spiritual path. We have been saying it right from the beginning, that confluence of mind and intellect is must. Confluence of head and heart is must. So what is devotion? Devotion is nothing but surrender, respect, reverence, identification, feeling of oneness. You need to surrender in the areas of your ignorance. See, for example, you and I don't know medicine, for argument's sake. We need to surrender to a competent doctor. I mean, it's understood. It's not that you surrender to any doctor. First of all, you need to identify a qualified doctor, make inquiries, make sure that you're going to the right person. And once you surrender to that doctor, you need to follow his or her advice. It is as simple as that. Now, why we need to surrender to a doctor? It's a common sense. But if you understand this, you'll understand path of devotion. Why you and I need to surrender, assuming we don't know medicine? Why do we need to surrender? If something is wrong with us, physically I'm talking about. Question is open. Even those who are attending online, they can unmute and answer. It's a straightforward question.
We don't have the knowledge.
You and I don't have the knowledge of medicine. So if I try to treat myself, if you try to treat yourself, if something is wrong with us physically, what will happen? You will do more harm. Yeah. So similarly, you and I do not know how to live life. It's an art, it's a technique. We do not know the supreme reality. We do not know what's our ultimate mission in life. So where do you get this knowledge? So the knowledge, the scriptures, they are giving this knowledge to us. So therefore, we need to surrender in our areas of our ignorance to these great masters, to the scriptures. So that is path of devotion all about. But it is not blind surrender. This is what you need to understand. A lot of people, they have that misunderstanding. Just surrender to anybody and everybody, then you will be victimized. Possible. You could be gullible. So make sure that you have identified the right book, which is scriptures, you can't go wrong. Make sure that you have identified the right teacher, who according to you is the right teacher. And there is no need to rush. But once you identify the right teacher, once you identify the right book, which is scriptures, see, you implicitly, you must surrender to that book or teacher. And again, you can ask as many questions as possible. You should clear your doubts. In fact, you must when you have doubts. So that's what path of devotion is all about. And what happens when you surrender? First of all, your ignorance is removed step by step. You get proper guidance. Your journey in life becomes smooth. So that's what they're telling us, the story. See, it was war between righteousness and unrighteousness. Kauravas and Pandavas. Pandavas were righteous people. Kauravas were unrighteous people. But Pandavas were very passive. They were good, but they were very passive. So therefore, they were harassed by their cousins, Kauravas, right from the day one, right from early childhood, and they were victimized. And only with Krishna's guidance, they could handle the situation. Otherwise, they would have lost everything. In fact, they had lost everything. So your journey in life becomes smooth when you have proper guidance, when you surrender. You progress in life, in material field as well as in the spiritual path. And you achieve your objective, you achieve your goal. This is what happens when you surrender. See, for example, I know all of you are sincere, right? Sincerely, you are following spiritual path. But how many of you can claim that you have achieved your objective, you achieved your goal? Good many people, they cannot. In fact, they end up becoming more confused. That is because you don't surrender. Either you try to do it on your own, or you may surrender to the wrong person. But if you take guidance from the scriptures, I mean, how can you go wrong? So path of, I repeat, path of devotion is nothing but path of surrender, that feeling of respect and reverence. And what is understood is your intellect is playing the role. It's not blind surrender. And they're using the simile of a boat, which is used throughout in the scriptures. Krishna, he is the ferryman. You can say he is a captain. And they are trying to cross from shore A to shore B. So they are telling us it's a river. You can say it is a sea full of challenges. It's all symbolic. So the river or a sea represents challenges of life, which all of us face. The challenge could be at home, challenge could be at work, challenge could be in the society, challenge could be right now, we know what is happening in the world. I mean, as a humanity, we all are facing challenges. So how do you handle these challenges? So the boat symbolizes knowledge. So when you're on the boat, you're not lashed by the waves. In fact, we enjoy, isn't it? I remember a couple of years back, I had gone to Lake Superior, and those are from Michigan, they will know what I'm saying. And it's quite rough there. And after 45 minutes, they brought us back because the waves were too much. But everybody was enjoying. Like 2-3 feet high waves, and kids, they were screaming. Now, what is there to enjoy in 3 feet waves? You throw somebody in the lake or in the river, I mean, you'll start screaming. So boat symbolizes the knowledge. So knowledge protects you from challenges of life. Your journey becomes smooth. And captain or a ferryman is a Krishna in this case. So only under the guidance of a captain, you can navigate properly. So Krishna in this context is a guru. And boat takes you from shore A to shore B, from shore of mortality to the shore of immortality, ultimately speaking. So that's the simile they are using, the boat simile. And another important point which we understand here is, see, it was a civil war kind of a situation, coming back to the backdrop of Mahabharata. It was righteousness which was fighting unrighteousness. So the unrighteous lot, the Kauravas, they were extremely self-centered. They are vicious people. They are scheming, planning, manipulative. And Pandavas, they were righteous people. They were the righteous lot. But also they were very passive. So it is the aggressive people who always victimize the passive people. Yes. extremely important for you to understand this in day-to-day life. Can we have the PowerPoint, please? A lot of people ask this question. They say it doesn't pay to be righteous. It doesn't pay to be unselfish. Why corrupt people, they do good in life, So there is a reason for that. And you will see the chart. You must be familiar with this. We have done this before. Can you see the chart? Yeah, so there you go. So you can divide human beings, it's a broad division, into aggressive and passive lot. Now again, passive people, you can divide them into passive good and passive bad. And aggressive people, aggressive good and aggressive bad. Now we are using this word aggressive and passive. You don't refer to the dictionary. If you use intellect, the thinking faculty, then you are being aggressive. You can say assertive. If you are using mind alone, then you become passive. Now, passive people are victimized by aggressive good, aggressive bad people all over the world. You may be good, you may be righteous, you may be honest. But if you are operating at the level of mind alone, if you're not using the thinking faculty, if you're not using the intellect, the aggressive bad people, they are going to victimize you because they are using the intellect, the thinking faculty. Therefore, they plan, they scheme, they manipulate, they cheat, and they do all sorts of things. And since you are using mind, you are acting only at the level of emotions and feelings. You do not know how to tackle these people. So that's what happens in the world, isn't it? Now forget about why go into the world. It could happen even in your own home, even in a relationship. It could be between husband and wife. It could be between parents and children. It could be in your office. These things can happen. And usually the language of passive people is what? What do passive people, they say? See, I repeat, passive people are the ones who are using their mind alone. There's hardly an intellect which they are using. Passive people could be good, right? They're righteous. Or also they could be bad. Bad meaning, see, they are not intentionally, they are trying to be vicious. They just born in a particular environment and unconsciously they are taking to that negative lifestyle, but they don't mean to be vicious, like gambling and all. And if you're seeing all these things happening around you, you don't feel it is anything negative. So you unconsciously take to, you can say that, negative lifestyle. Similarly, you can take to positive lifestyle because you're seeing your parents, grandparents, everybody around you is righteous. So unconsciously, you're following the righteous path, higher values of life, but you're not using your intellect to navigate through life. So therefore, aggressive people who use intellect, the negative, the aggressive bad, they prey on passive people. So at home, you could be victimized by your spouse. Now, husband may victimize the wife. Wife also may victimize the husband. Why only spoil husbands? Many times it is wife who is the problem. Not really. It could be anybody. And then you complain. So the language of passive people is either they brood or they cry. Battery, 1 second. Battery is very low here in the computer. Otherwise, the whole thing will go blank. So are you with me? So therefore, if you want to tackle problems in life, challenges in life, you need to use your intellect. See, otherwise you'll be victimized. So that's what is happening in this story. The Pandavas, they were the righteous lot. Kauravas, they were unrighteous, but they were aggressive. They were using their intellect for cheating, for manipulating, for planning, and for scheming. And thanks to Krishna, Krishna symbolizes powerful intellect, aggressive good. So aggressive good person uses his intellect, but he doesn't want anything for himself. He is doing it for the cause. For example, somebody is trying to victimize you in your workplace, just to understand the concept. So how can you end up becoming a victim? You will end up becoming a victim if you're not using intellect. So if necessary, you need to challenge that. But you're not doing it for self-centered reasons. You are doing it to correct that particular situation. So it's extremely important to understand. Otherwise, without this explanation, you cannot understand why good people, why righteous people, why unselfish people, why are they victimized? Because they are not using their intellect, they are not using their thinking faculty. And vicious people, self-centered people, they use their intellect and therefore they prey on passive people. So therefore, this knowledge, Vedanta, strengthens your intellect. And once your intellect is powerful, there is no way you can be victimized. Also, why would you victimize somebody else? Because you don't want anything from anybody. But also at the same time, you cannot take any nonsense unnecessarily where it is not required. But the intention is pure. You don't do it for selfish reason. And that is possible. You develop strong intellect only if you surrender to this knowledge. So that's the implication. And another point which you need to understand about devotion. See, what you understand about devotion, your understanding of devotion, and what is actual devotion, there is no connection. See, if I were to ask you, I'm not asking you, who is a devotee? So you will tell me one who goes to a temple or a church or a mosque, who keeps on praying, who wears something like me, or he could be in an ochre robe, he follows various rituals, he goes on a pilgrimage. You may do all these things. But when it comes to chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, the entire chapter is called as Yoga of Devotion, Bhakti Yoga. Not even one of these things Krishna mentions. All he talks about is qualities and qualities and qualities. In fact, he mentions 35 qualities. Advaishta Sarvabhutanam, not hating any being. The first quality itself, most of the devotees are out. The so-called devotees of God, they are destroying the world. Isn't it? So there is no mention about, you must pray, you must go to a church or a temple, you must follow a particular lifestyle. There is no such thing. He just talks about qualities. If you are genuinely devoted, that devotion will manifest through all your personality, through your entire personality, through these 35 ways. So devotion, therefore, is not blind surrender. It's not just praying. You may pray, you may go to a place of worship, and they are not saying you should not, but there is no cause and effect relationship. You may observe all the vows, you may go to a temple or a church every day, and you could be far from true devotion. So therefore, he corrects that in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. We'll study that when we get there. So chapter 6, there is a hint at path of devotion. Verse number 7 talks about the next verse. There's a subtle hint at path of knowledge. So let's chant verse number 7, please.
पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिन श्रेयसे.
Translation. May the spotless lotus of Mahabharata, which is born in the lake of the words of Parasaryas and the Vyasa, the author, which is rich with fragrance of the import of the Gita, which has many narratives as filaments, which is instructive in the story of Hari, Krishna, which is joyously imbibed day after day by bees of pure intellects in the world, which destroys the impurities of the Iron Age, bestows supreme good on us. Now, this is poetry. If you try to understand it directly, what are you going to understand? So therefore, we need to learn scriptures. Now, like I said, this verse is talking about path of knowledge. It is called as Dhyana Yoga or a Jnana Yoga. Now, knowledge is the foundation of everything. Foundation of path of action, foundation of path of devotion. Because without knowledge, your action cannot be channelized. So you will end up performing mechanical action, right? Even devotion, your feeling, if your feelings, your emotions, if they are not supervised by the intellect, where are you heading? So knowledge is the basis, is the foundation of any spiritual practice. So that is understood. Now, he is talking about the knowledge from absolute level as well as from the relative level. This is what you need to understand. Now, knowledge from the absolute level is the knowledge of who you are. What is your identity? What is the purpose of life? What's your life's mission? Now, if you don't have this knowledge, this is what scriptures are telling us, that your original nature is all full, whole, paripurna. Now, if you don't know this, and most of us do not know it, it creates the void. Everybody is having that void. And what scriptures are telling us, that there is nothing lacking in your life. Your original nature, which is self or truth, is all full. It is a seat of infinite peace, infinite bliss. Now, if you are ignorant of that, it creates that void, a sense of incompleteness, that something is lacking in my life. And to fulfill that void, that feeling of incompleteness, you start sending your thoughts to the objects and beings of the world. So these thought currents flowing from you to the world is called as desires. And you believe when you try to satisfy these desires at action level, emotional level, intellectual level, that void will be removed. That is the very fallacy. That is the beginning of all our troubles. So at least as a theory, you need to know this. See, are you with me? This is how knowledge helps. So what scriptures are telling us, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, whether it is Bible, whether it is Quran, the same thing, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And we all are trying to find that kingdom of heaven, that peace and happiness, where? In the external world. One person may try indulging in the senses. Another person may try to find that happiness at the emotional level. Talk to me, spend more time with me, be nice to me is a typical language of emotional person, you know. Third person may try to find happiness at the intellectual level. But the starting point itself is faulty. Why the starting point itself is faulty? Because there is no happiness in the external world. But they admit, the scriptures, they admit it's not easy to find that happiness within you, but there is no other place where that happiness exists. So this is the basic knowledge as a human being you have to have, that your original nature is whole, complete. You are nothing but a nucleus of completeness. And due to ignorance, you believe that happiness lies in the external world. So this is knowledge which scriptures they give from the absolute level. And from relative level, we all need to know how to navigate our life, how to face challenges of life. For that, what we need is clarity. So study and reflection on Bhagavad Gita gives that clarity, fortifies, it strengthens our intellect. Bhagavad Gita gives knowledge of higher values. It tells you how to be more productive and successful in the world, and also at the same time be peaceful. This is what we all are aiming for in life. We all want to be successful. The whole chapter 3, 3, 4, 5, they talk about success. But also we want to be peaceful. You are extremely productive, you are very successful, but you are on antidepressants. I mean, who wants to live that kind of a life? And unless and until we have knowledge of how to combine both, then it's not possible. And when you get established in knowledge, the true knowledge which scriptures they are giving us, you develop a perception of what is permanent and what is impermanent in life. Nitya, nitya, viveka vicharam. What is permanent, what is impermanent. So you are trying to find happiness by playing with impermanent things in life. Everybody is doing that. Relationships, they're not permanent. Sense indulgence, they're not permanent. In fact, the world itself is impermanent, it's changing. So how can you find happiness in this impermanent, changing world? So by default, you are pegging your happiness, you're leaning on something which is shifting. So as you get established in this knowledge, see, knowledge is not you become scholar. You may know Bhagavad Gita, Bible, pit-pat, and you could be the most ignorant person. So what is the sign that you are getting established in this knowledge, that you develop that perception, that understanding, that vision, that maturity? What is that maturity? That there is no happiness in impermanent things in life. And we all are trying to find happiness in what? Impermanent things. So that's the sign that you are getting established in the knowledge of Vedanta. Another parameter that you are getting established in this knowledge is that you become more objective as opposed to entangled and involved in the world. See, most people are entangled, involved in whatever they are doing. But as you gain this knowledge, to the extent you are established in this knowledge, to that extent you're objective, you're detached, you're dynamic, no doubt, but also you function in the spirit of renunciation. With knowledge, you steer your life in the right direction. And when we talk about knowledge, what you need to understand that knowledge has to be converted into wisdom. You may have all the knowledge in the world. You know Bhagavad Gita. In fact, there are people, personally, I have known a couple of people, they can chant Bhagavad Gita backward. There are 701 verses in Bhagavad Gita. They can literally chant backward. As a child, I went to the Catholic school, so we had one nun who could chant the entire, she knew the entire Bible by heart. Everybody was impressed by that. It's an extraordinary talent. So you may know Bible by heart, you may know Bhagavad Gita by heart, but you could be the most ignorant person in the world. It's possible. So you need to convert this knowledge with your own efforts, with study and reflection into wisdom. So therefore, we're not talking about, when we talking about knowledge, we're not talking about scholarship. Every single day you need to get up in the morning, study for half an hour, 45 minutes, systematically, methodically, And you must reflect on what you have heard or what you are reading. And only when you do that, that knowledge gradually sips in. You absorb that knowledge. And when that knowledge is absorbed, that knowledge becomes wisdom. And when knowledge becomes wisdom, you are able to live that knowledge. So otherwise, you may talk about it. How many of you have not, you've heard this 100 times. Do not act on the impulses of your mind. Use your intellect at all times. Some of you may explain it better than me, especially those who have gift of the gap. But how many of us are using our intellect at all times? Put a question mark. So you can't say, I don't know. You know it, you heard it 100 times. But why you're not able to use your intellect? When somebody offers you a glass of wine or alcohol, you know you're supposed to drink just one glass. I'm not recommending that. You know, I'm not supposed to drink more than one. But you end up, your wife has to carry you home. You can't say you don't know. You heard it. In fact, you were giving lecture on mind and intellect in that party. And perhaps few other people who wanted to drink more, they got benefited by your knowledge. But end of the party, you were dead drunk. You have knowledge, but you don't have wisdom. So you need to convert that knowledge into wisdom. And how you do that is by your daily study and reflection. So knowledge is not scholarship. It is your capacity in you to live this knowledge, these values. Verse number 8, please.
मूकं करोति वाचालम् पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्.
Play it one more time. It's very powerful.
मूकं करोति वाचालम् पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्.
I salute the most blissful Madhava, Krishna, whose grace renders the mute eloquent and cripples scale the mountain. So, as I said, this is nothing but poetry. If you take it literally, this is where people get into superstition, right? See, first of all, God's grace is universal. It is not preferential. See, God's grace, meaning law of causation, is universal. If you sow a particular cause, you get a particular effect. Now, is this not universal? If you want to be healthy, if you eat right food, if you do proper exercise, yoga, stretching, whatever you do, this is the cause. What will happen? Your body will be healthy. Now, is it possible that there are, let's say, 10 of us here, and we are following, we are trying to be healthy. Only 5 of us become healthy and 5 of us don't become healthy? If I'm not healthy, that means I'm cheating. Here I'm eating salad, and in between salads, what I'm eating, usually that's what happens. So it's a universal law. So the whole world is governed by universal law, which is law of causation. So if you put efforts to evolve spiritually, that the providence is assuring you, there's a guarantee. What is that guarantee? That the law of causation is functioning meticulously. That why are you worried? That the moment you decide, I want to become a better human being, if you start putting efforts in the right direction with this knowledge, sooner or later, you are going to become a better human being. Now, no power in the world is going to prevent that. Only other people are improving. I'm not improving because you're not putting efforts. It is as simple as that. So what we need to understand that God's grace is universal. It is not preferential. Nobody is denied the opportunity. You only can deny that opportunity to yourself. It is as simple as that. Number one. The second point is, with this knowledge, a seeker, an ordinary seeker, an ordinary person becomes extraordinary. Now, why ordinary persons becomes extraordinary? Because of calm mind and sharp intellect. It is your own mind, disturbed mind, agitated mind, mind full of worry and anxiety. It prevents you from becoming an achiever in life or tapping your best potential. And intellect, hardly anybody puts efforts to develop their intellect. So that's the reason you go through worry, anxiety, stress, strain, conflicts, confrontation in life. So with this knowledge, two things happen. Your mind becomes calm, gradually it becomes calm, and your intellect becomes sharp. Now, when your mind is calm and your intellect is sharp, two things happen. There are two charts, so they are quite important. You can take a note or you can take photos or whatever. See, without these charts, you cannot understand these concepts. It is more of a theory. Yeah, there you are. So when all your actions are backed by the intellect, the thinking faculty, such a person is called as sane. None of us belongs to this category. When you are not using your intellect at all, 100% mind, such a person is lunatic, insane. Now, nobody belongs to these two extremes. I am talking about as far as you and I are concerned. We can't say we are insane. There might be insanity in our life. I mean, that goes without saying. There are periods in our life when we all are insane. Why we are saying that? Any person who does not use intellect is insane. At least for the time being, you become insane. Also, none of us can say we are sane. 100% intellect we are using all the time, 0% mind. If you say that, then you don't need this knowledge. You are beyond this knowledge. So we all are somewhere in between. Now, when intellect is only 75%, or you can say mind has taken over to 25%, you become emotional. You start acting on emotions, you become emotional. As intellect degenerates further, 50% intellect, 50% mind, you become eccentric. Intellect is lost 75% or mind has taken over. You become hysterical. You can see that 25% actions are backed by intellect, 75% actions are backed by the mind. So such a person is called as hysterical person. And last is insanity. Now, you need to find out, you need to be truthful to yourself, and you need to find out where do you fall on this chart. Don't tell me, don't tell others. You know where you fall. Good many people, they hover between emotional and eccentric. This is the standard answer we get all over the world. And there are portions, there could be portions in your life where you become hysterical or insane. Can you give an example of this? It's not difficult. When you become hysterical or practically insane, there is a complete insanity. Not even hysterical. In day-to-day life, it's not difficult. Those who are attending online, don't tell me you are sane. Then please log out. Why are you wasting your time?
When you're driving on the road.
That everybody can't say. Yeah, there are so many good drivers here. Nobody has a fight at home. All is well in Denmark.
You can practically destroy your marriage, to the point, insanity, when you get to insanity.
Correct. So we are talking about temporary insanity or state. When husband and wife fight, I mean, what? The two mad people fighting, any fight, not necessarily husband and wife. So you use that example. Now, what you need to understand, to the extent you're not using your intellect, your mind has taken over, to that extent, you're not being productive in life. Because to be productive, to be successful, what you need is a very calm mind and a sharp intellect. So this chart will help you to understand. The next helps it even more. So there are 3 states of mind. Now, when the mind is totally disturbed, it is called as imperfect mind. It's like a cone standing on its pointed edge. It can't, right? It needs prop. So there are people who are disturbed all the time. I'm sure we all have come across such people. Most of the times they are disturbed. They themselves do not know what is wrong with them. Right? All the time they are disturbed. Externally, things could be all right, still they are disturbed. So such a state of mind is called as imperfect mind. Most of the time, such a person is agitated. The next is called as unstable mind, which is like a cone on its side. So the cone on its side is stable. Imagine a cone on a glass surface. It is stable. But if you tap the cone, it will start moving. It will start oscillating. And that oscillation can go on for a long time. So on your own, you're okay. But something happens, somebody says. Your spouse says something, or no, he forgets wedding anniversary. The disturbance will go on. It depends on how mad you are. It could go on for half a day. It could go on for one day. Sometimes it could go on for a couple of days or weeks. Then you become calm. Again, something happens. Office, somebody says something. Again, the disturbance starts. So by and large, such a person is a disturbed person. And then there is something called as balanced mind. That nothing from the world bothers you. Things will go on. I mean, you have no control. Externally, how can you control anybody's actions? But you're not affected by the challenges, the pairs of opposites. So the knowledge of Vedanta gives you this state of mind, perfect mind, because your mind is calm and your intellect is sharp to control the vagaries of your mind. Now, this is what is required to be successful in life. And any person who has calm mind and a sharp intellect, he will become an extraordinary person. In your own field, forget about spiritual path. We are talking purely from worldly point of view. So why can't you be successful according to you? Because you are hardly tapping whatever, 10, 20, 30% of your capacity. Why are you losing 60, 70% of your energy? Because of the agitations of the mind. Why mind is agitated? Because intellect is weak. Why intellect is weak? Because you have never bothered to develop your intellect. How you develop your intellect? With the study and reflection on Vedanta. Now, with this explanation, if you read the verse, then it makes sense. That mute becomes eloquent, the cripple scale mountain, not to be taken literally. The ordinary person becomes extraordinary. So with this knowledge, you get that conviction, and also your conscience backs all your actions. And there is that feeling, there is that satisfaction, that contentment that you are going in the right direction. Because you have surrendered to the right book, You surrender to the scriptures. So how can you go wrong? So all these points put together, if you read the translation, then it makes sense. It is very practical. So he's talking about cause and effect. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. Path of action, path of devotion, path of knowledge is the cause. Effect is whatever we discussed just now. You qualify for meditation. And meditation takes you to the ultimate state of self-realization. So that's what he's going to explain to us in the next verse number 9.
यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति देव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः.
Salutation to that God whom Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, and Maruta praise with divine hymns. By parts, chapters, sections of Upanishads in Vedas, sung by the singers of Samaveda, whom the yogis with mind poised in meditation on that perceive, whose limit the gods and demons do not know. Now, this is poetry. So what you need to understand that Brahman, the supreme reality, is the substratum of the entire world, of microcosm and macrocosm. Now, in Hindu faith, in Vedantic faith, supreme reality is called as Brahman. Brahman, Brahman, not Brahmin, Brahman. In Christianity, it is called as Father in heaven. In Islamic faith, it is called as Allah. So these are just different words. So you can use any word which you are familiar with, you are comfortable with. So supreme reality or Brahman is the substratum of the whole world, including your personality. Now, the symbolism behind, see, Hindus, people believe that there are so many gods and goddesses, that Hinduism is polytheistic. Hindus themselves, they believe there is no such thing. There is only one reality, one supreme reality, which is called as Brahman, or Father in heaven. But the manifestations are many. See, just as there is only one electricity, electricity is the substratum of all the gadgets. But electricity remains unmanifest. Electricity is not manifest. You see, there are so many lights here in this room. You can see them glowing, right? It's a manifestation. But where is electricity? Without electricity, these bulbs cannot function. Without electricity, there is no heating. Without electricity, the fan cannot move. There are so many expressions of electricity. So electricity is the substratum of all the gadgets in the world. But electricity remains unmanifest. Follow it very carefully. Electricity is not manifest. So similarly, the Brahman, the supreme reality, is the substratum of the entire universe, but it is unmanifest. Manifestation is, everything is manifestation. When the flower is blooming, what is that power which makes that flower bloom? It is the supreme reality. It's in the background, it is unmanifest. it is summertime still in Michigan, you see beautiful birds chirping. What makes that bird chirp? It is supreme reality. Or you can see the mighty universe is moving, the power, the stars and galaxies they have. From where do they get that power? The substratum is the supreme reality, which is unmanifest. And that unmanifest reality, that supreme reality is your original nature, is my original nature. But the average person finds it very difficult to tune into the unmanifest reality. Are you getting it? So therefore, in Hindu faith, in Sanatana Dharma, they divinized everything. The reason they have done that is it is almost impossible for a mind to think of the supreme reality, unmanifest reality. You cannot do that because you are caught up in what? The world, the terrestrial world, name, fame, family, this and that. And they're not criticizing. In fact, they understand your limitations. So therefore, they divinized everything. So therefore, you get all these gods and goddesses. You're interested in money. Yes or no? Yes. Worship goddess Lakshmi. Another person wants success. Okay, Ganesha. So everything from birth to death, they have divinized in Hindu faith, and which is misconstrued by Hindus themselves, that there are thousands of gods and goddesses. Oh, this is ignorance. Therefore, you need knowledge. These gods and goddesses, they are concepts. They are not personalities. Now, there is no actual Ganesha, and there is no actual Brahma, there is no Indra. All these are manifestations. Even in the Greek mythology, they have done that. For everything, there is God. That means there is no actual Mr. God or Mrs. God. This is what ignorant people believe. So gods and goddesses, they are nothing but manifestations, or rather these manifestations they have divinized. So this is what you need to understand. And all spiritual seekers, they are trying to reach that supreme reality. How they are trying to reach that supreme reality? By Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, 3 spiritual practices. Here he just mentions 2. By Upanishads, meaning by knowledge. By Vedic hymns, meaning path of devotion. And what all seekers, they need to understand, that supreme reality remains beyond body, mind, intellect. So it is beyond the perceptions of your body, it is beyond the feelings of your mind, it is beyond the thoughts of your intellect. Meaning you cannot capture the supreme reality, Brahman, by using your body, mind, intellect. In layman's language, you cannot see God. You cannot feel God. You cannot intellectually understand God. I'm using the word God in a layman's term. So it is useful for a seeker. Without this knowledge, you believe that supreme reality or God is something which you can contact with your senses. No, it is objectless awareness. It is a subject in you which enables you to perceive, feel, and think. You cannot perceive supreme reality. You cannot feel it through your mind. You cannot intellectually understand. Yes, now I understood Upanishad. Now I understood Bhagavad Gita. Now I have mastered the concept of Brahman. No. Just as no dreamer can contact the waking state with his body, mind, and intellect, then how does dreamer know the waking state? Only when the dreamer becomes the waker. For that, he has to transcend his dream, body, mind, and intellect. So similarly, you need to transcend, you need to go beyond body, mind, intellect to become one with supreme reality. And when you become one with supreme reality, you understand what it is. Till then, you won't understand. But with your body, mind, intellect, you cannot contact God. You cannot contact the supreme reality. This is what you need to understand. And that supreme reality is beyond good and bad. whose limits the gods and demons do not know. In this case, gods meaning unselfish people, and demons meaning self-centered people, meaning supreme reality, the state of Brahman, the state of self-realization is beyond selfish and unselfish desires. Selfish desires we understand. See, the theorem is what? Human being minus desires equals God or truth or divinity. So you need to purify your personality. How you purify your personality? By conquering your selfish desires. But then you may get caught up in unselfish desires. Desire is a desire from absolute standpoint. How does it matter whether it is selfish desire or whether it is unselfish desire? So therefore, there is a warning, there is a caution. Don't get caught up in unselfishness, in good also. A lot of people, they get caught up. Oh, I want to do good to the world. I want to promote this knowledge. Everybody needs this knowledge. Of course, I mean, you understand. You're not caught up in that. If you get caught up in that, you will replace selfish desires with unselfish desires, and you will be caught up in the terrestrial world. It's like a bad dreamer has become a very good dreamer. I mean, does it have any meaning? A dreamer is a dreamer. He's still ignorant. So it is beyond good and bad. So therefore, you must perform nishkama karma in life, selfless action. Just do what you ought to do in life. Why are you entertaining any motives? You come to the spiritual path. Why are you entertaining any motives? Will I improve? Will I become this? No. Understand you have a particular goal and just plunge into effort. And that supreme reality is the unconditioned consciousness, consciousness per se. So right now, you and I are aware of whatever you're aware of is conditioned by something. Right now, you say, I am conscious. You're conscious of my sound, isn't it? Unless you're sleeping. You're conscious of the screen in front of you. You're conscious of your own feelings. You're conscious of your own thoughts. You're conscious of there's a dog barking in the distance, right? So you're conscious of something. But the supreme reality is consciousness per se. It is unconditioned consciousness. It is not qualified by any object. And that unconditioned consciousness is also called as Turiya, the fourth plane of consciousness, which is beyond deep sleep, dream, and waking state. And our life revolves around these three states. We are completely caught up in these three states, the conditioned states. So therefore, our mission in life is to find out that ultimate reality. You have no other mission in life. I have no other mission in life. But today we have all other missions except this mission. So that's what he's telling us in the last verse. So he is talking about high quality seekers who have practically eliminated all their desires. A handful of desires are left, and that desire is only to know the truth, know your true identity. So therefore, what you need is a step-by-step, systematic, methodic approach. We are doing the last verse, and that's what Bhagavad Gita is all about. So we are going to start Bhagavad Gita from the first week of October. Radha is going to make a few announcements, and after her announcements are over, I'm going to give all of you maybe 3 or 4 minutes to clarify your doubts. So if something has been bothering you, if you need some more inputs, if you have some logistical issues, so we can discuss it quickly. So don't log out after Radha's announcement. So Radha, Vijay, please highlight Radha.
Hari Om all. We have a few announcements here. There will be no class for the next 3 weeks coming up because we have 2 events coming up over the weekend. September 9 to 11, we have the message for humanity given by Swamiji, and the second event will be from September 23rd to 25th, the weekend. where there will be the annual Vedanta Catskills retreat. The chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita will start on October 1st. You will receive a reminder email with a link 1 day in advance, that is on Friday. If you are planning to attend these lectures on a regular basis, you will need to get Swamiji's Bhagavad Gita books, which is available on Amazon from September 15th to purchase. The ebook is available on Kindle all the time. If you have been inspired by the past few weeks and lectures, it would be great for you to share this class with your friends and contacts so that they can also register and benefit from this knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, so the book, can you show the book again, Vijay? Yeah, Radha is also showing. So if you are planning to attend, definitely you need to get hold of this book, all of you. So you can see Bhagavad Gita by Swamiji, by Swami Parthasarthi. So right now there is no stock on the Amazon. The shipment has just come from India. So it will take approximately 10 days. So from September 15th onwards, the book should be available on Amazon. And also it's a soft copy, those who like soft copy, like Kindle and whatever soft ebooks. Yeah, but definitely you will need to get a book. All right, so I'm going to give you maybe 5 minutes to, if you have any questions, if you need any directions, you just raise your thumb, unmute yourself, and feel free to talk.
अमित जी, सुधा मैं बोल रही हूँ.
Yeah.
The question is, most of the time we use our mind over intellect when we have to make a decision or interact with people. What is it that will help us switch over, or do we need to have that intellect working all the time before we respond or make a decision?
See, developing intellect is like developing muscles. We all have muscles. We are born with muscles, right? But imagine if you and I don't use muscles, what will happen? We will be like bedridden. So either consciously or unconsciously, we use muscles. So therefore, as an adults, we have strong body. But when it comes to intellect, there is hardly any education which helps to strengthen intellect. See, the whole thing is knowledge, intelligence. So therefore, study of Vedanta, study and reflection, mark my words carefully, study and reflection on Vedanta gradually develops your intellect. So it doesn't take that long also. First of all, you should be aware, which you are aware, I'm glad. And if you put efforts, systematic efforts, it should not take long. So the formula is read less and think more. You must have noticed that. That's the style of these classes. There's so much knowledge thrown at you. Now you have these 3 weeks to reflect. So reflect on whatever you have understood. So when you think systematically and regularly, preferably early hours of the morning, gradually you will develop your intellect. But without efforts, to answer your question, without efforts, you cannot do that.
Thank you.
Amitji, one quick clarification.
Yes.
In that chart of sane and insane,
Yeah.
so one individual can be at 50, 75, 25, 25, 75, or 100% insane. It's not like if I'm at 75, 25, I'm always going to remain there. I can like situation and circumstances can make me insane, or like, it's not like, buried in concrete that I am 50-50 now. I'm going to remain 50-50, So at any given moment, I can be sane, insane, eccentric, or emotional, right?
See, sane person will remain sane. That goes without saying. Somebody who is truly established. But since most of us are hovering somewhere between emotional and eccentric, there is a potential. The moment mind takes over, especially the emotional person, the moment mind takes over, how long it takes to become eccentric or hysterical. So that switch happens like boom, it doesn't take long. And again, that influence is gone again, then you become your normal self. Normal self meaning whatever. See, your growth is 40%. So you hover around that. But when situation comes which is beyond your capacity, you may slip into either eccentric or hysterical or even insane person. So that keeps on changing. The moment you don't use your intellect, you slip. So that's what we need to understand. See, this is how people commit suicide. I'm giving you extreme example. Nobody wants to die, but then suddenly the mind takes over. You become insane, and in that moment of insanity, person ends up killing himself or herself. This is how crimes are committed. So therefore, you got to be extremely careful. Mind can take over anytime in me and you. Buddhinashat pranashyati. When you lose your intellect, everything is lost. And there's a potential in your personality for the mind to take over 24/7. You got to be extremely careful.
Thank you.
I have a logistics question for those of us who are online.
Yeah.
Is there going to be like a discussion group where we get to like share thoughts and questions and kind of like bounce information from one another? Because we're missing out on the discussion of in-person, and sometimes after I listen to the lectures,
Right.
I mean, at least for me, I don't have anybody else to talk to about it. So it's just having a group to process everything, I feel would be helpful. But is that a possibility?
In fact, we have such a group. It is happening for the last more than 2.5 years. So every Thursday, practically every Thursday, we meet. I mean, in my absence, there are some senior students here, and they discuss. Questions are asked, and I answer those questions once in a month. So if you could, what is your name?
Leneida?
Neha.
Leneida.
Yes.
Okay, so Radha, please note down her details, and Neha, you can send your query to us through the same email, study class, that I'm interested in participating in group discussions, and Radha and Vijay, then you can send her the details, and when she attends, make sure that her questions are taken up first.
Okay.
Her questions.
Yes,
So it happened. Okay.
yes. You can send us a mail and we will include you in the group.
Mhm.
So every Thursday, every Tuesday, by Tuesday, you'll receive a mail of the Zoom link and details, and you can join in on Thursday evenings at 7.
What is the email again?
The study class at vedantamidwest.org, the email from which you receive the Zoom link. So you can just reply to that.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, there's a question from in-person attendee. Yes, Neha.
So is it possible to, or should it be?
Right.
That passive good to get in, to become aggressive? Or is it something one should look for?
Yeah, Neha's question is it possible to become from passive good to aggressive good. That's what we should all aim for in life. See, passive good in layman's language means what? You're a good person, right? You have higher values and, but mechanically you are following those values. And since you're not using intellect, anybody who is using intellect and who is self-centered can take advantage of you. In fact, that's what happened in the Mahabharata war. Just is symbolic, but Pandavas were righteous people. And it is Kauravas who manipulated them. And they did not know how to handle the tricky situations. So it is aggressive, good intellect of Krishna which saved them. See, for example, how do you fight with a terrorist? I am magnifying. If terrorist comes here with a gun, you can't say, hey, let's hug and let's have a discussion and all that. I mean, if you believe you're good, you feel other people are good, but he's out there to harm you. So whatever, if you happen to have a weapon, the first thing you do, take out your gun and shoot that person. And don't take it literally. I'm giving you the example. So your point is, no, he was not facing me. He should be facing me. Okay, you face him, then you won't be left. This is a typical language of a passive person. So for that, what you need is a powerful intellect. And a simple formula is, it is intention behind the action that is important, not the action. If your intention is good, your action does not matter. If your country is attacked by the enemy, you can't go and stand there and say, hey, let's hug each other. You'll be wiped out. So you need powerful intellect to understand that, to fight unrighteousness, corruption, etc. Therefore, I give example of relationship at home. When are you and I going to fight wars? So our war is in day-to-day life. So if you follow carefully, it is aggressive intellect which preys on passive people, passive good people. And how do you fight them? Usually people, they become victim. They go into the victim mode. This is what is happening to me. That is what is happening to me. Is that going to solve the problem? If I'm vicious to you and you start crying in front of me, I mean, am I going to be like a noble person? So you need to fight me. Fight meaning you need to use intellect. So that's what this knowledge does. And most people, they operate at the level of the mind. Therefore, they are victimized by a handful of people in the world who are self-centered, but they use their intellect. So this is what this knowledge does. You become aggressive good. You can use the word assertive, meaning you use your intellect.
In the same context, Amitji, can passive bad manipulate passive good? Or
No, they cannot, because by default, they're using their mind. Passive person, he mechanically following his lifestyle. It may happen to be good, it may happen to be negative. But since they are not using the intellect, they can't victimize others. Even passive bad can be easily victimized by aggressive bad. So passive people are victimized by aggressive people, aggressive bad.
Could you clarify the difference between the mind and the intellect? I'm here for the first time, so you may have explained this earlier, but I'd appreciate that understanding.
Sure. See, any action is propelled either by mind or intellect. Body on its own cannot act. So mind is feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes, wants, wishes, desires. Intellect is the faculty with which you think, you reason, you analyze, you discriminate. For example, I offer a chocolate fudge to you. Naturally, you feel like having that. Then there's nothing wrong with that because you are fond of sweet. So it's a mind which feels like having it. But what if you are a diabetic? If you eat that fudge, you will get into trouble. So for that, you have to have a powerful intellect which tells your mind, hey, no, I'm not going to eat that fudge because if I eat that, my sugar will go up. But if I don't have sugar problem, if I'm not overweight, what's wrong in having dessert once in a while? Now you apply this formula.
Thank you.
You have powerful intellect, you will be able to manage your mind, the demands of your mind. Otherwise, you could get into serious trouble. In fact, most of us are in trouble because the mind has overpowered the intellect. Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, next question. Yeah, please ask. Who? Lisa Shah. Yeah, who is Lisa Shah? Please ask your question.
Me, yeah. I was wondering with the Bhagavad Gita book, is there a digital version that will be available on Amazon?
No, your voice is cracking, Shasha. I can't hear you.
Will there be a digital version, a Kindle version of the book, the
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita? Okay, and will that be sent out in a link with the link to it? Will it be sent out?
We can do
in the
that.
Email list?
We can do that.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you.
All right. So if no more questions, I will see you on October 1st. October 1st.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Amiji. Hari Om,
Thank you.
Amiji.
Thank you, Amitji.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.